It is Saturday morning. It's about 11. And I'm going to do chapter 23 today. Now remember, we're in the book of Joshua and we only have one more book to go. And it's a closing down. Joshua is aging. He's about 110 when this is written. And he's basically giving the last pep talk to the Israelites and some warnings about what he's observed with them. So that's where we're going to pick it up. It's not going to be a real long lesson, but it's really good. So let's start. We are book of Joshua, Old Testament, and we're in chapter 23. Joshua is going to speak to the leadership and then to the nation in general. But let's go to the leadership first. Now it came about after many days, when the Lord had given rest to Israel from all their enemies on every side, and Joshua was old, advanced in years, that Joshua called for all Israel, for their elders, for their heads, for their judges, for their officers, and said to them, I am old, advanced in years, and you have seen all that the Lord your God has done to all these nations because of you. For the Lord your God is he who has been fighting for you. So Joshua is doing his usual encouragement and pep talk. That's what he's done. But here's what he's noticed. You know, Israel was given by God 300,000 square miles. 300,000 square miles. They only conquered, let me look real quick. They only conquered 30,000 square miles. Let me show you a map. I don't know how to do like the fancy bloggers. They can put it up and you can see it. I'm just going to hold it up so that you can see it. So I'll do it over here so you can see. But as you get close, do it that way and this way. Everything in blue was given, the light blue was given to Israel, promised land by God. And you see the brown along the Jordan, that little brown spot, that is Israel. That's the only land they actually conquered. So they had a whole lot of other land, but they were tired and just didn't want to fight. You know, when they went across the Jordan, they went as a collective nation. Everyone had to fight. And they had God with them, and they conquered. They lost a few only because they turned away from God. As soon as they got back right, they began to win again. So this is a pattern for the Israelis. So Joshua knows that he's dying, and these are the advice. This is the last minute advice that he's going to give to his people. So they were resting for a while because they just gave up. They only took 10% of the land that God had given them, which I think is incredible. Think about that with our own lives. Think of what I know when I look back. There were things I could have conquered, and I didn't conquer, either for laziness or sin in my life, or just a disregard for God. Oh, I love Jesus. I loved God, unless it interfered with my lifestyle. And then they were put on a back burner. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I recognized it. As I got older, I recognized it. And I recognized it's the wrong way to be. God should be number one. And I'm not saying that's an easy road, because it is not an easy road. But Joshua recognized this in his people, that they were lazy. They only did so far, then they were comfortable, and God let them rest. So let's go on. We're on verse 4. Sometimes I get talking too much and I forget where I am. So verse 4, see, I have apportioned to you these nations which remain as an inheritance for your tribes, with all the nations which I have cut off from the Jordan, even to the great sea, toward the setting of the sun. So Joshua was giving them warning. Don't go back. Don't go back to your old ways. See, what they wouldn't do is get the paganism out of the land that God had given them. They did for a while. Then they just got lazy. And they decided it was much easier just to live beside the pagan nations with other gods than to fight for God and along with God and get rid of those people. United States of America better learn a lesson from this. So, number 5, hope you have your Bibles out. You want to read along and mark it up. Remember I told you I mark my Bible up. I know my granddaughter Tori, she says she's not allowed to do that at her school. She's not allowed to write in her Bible because it's in her view, or at least the school's view, that's disrespecting God. But it isn't, because you're not going to remember all these notes. I never have. That's why I write them in the Bible, so when I reread this section, I can see my notes. Things that I've studied from from history or from other books. I can't remember all that stuff, so I write it in my Bible. Verse 5, and the Lord your God, he has thrust them out from before you and drive them from before you, and you shall possess their land, just as the Lord your God promised. He's trying to encourage them. Get those people out. Don't go back accepting and living beside like it's no big deal. Paganism, other gods before your God. He's basically saying, well, let's do 6. Be very firm then to keep and do all that is written in the book of the laws of Moses, so that you may not turn aside from it to the right or to the left. 7. In order that you may not associate with these nations, these which remain among you, or mention the name of their God, or make anyone swear by them, or serve them, or bow down to them. He's giving it to them. He's telling them. If you go back, he's trying to remind them, if you go back and you allow, you know this in your own life, I know it in my own life, if I allow ungodly people into my life for an extended period of time, I lose something during that time. I've learned. I don't hang out with ungodly people. I don't try to win them over. I pray for them. But if they don't believe in God, or if they believe in another God, I really follow what Joshua told his people. And that is, stay away from these people. You're going to, there's a saying, if you the 5 people that you hang out with them long enough, you're going to adopt various parts of their personality, or their character traits, or maybe their integrity. And if they don't have any, you're going to lose yours. I'm telling you, it's true. Read Proverbs. It backs that up too. So let's keep going. Basically, Joshua is saying, don't turn back because you're going to be defeated. You only won because of God. Don't turn back and let these people live beside you, because it's going to bring discomfort. Because God's not going to like it. And it's going to bring disgrace, because God is recognizing that you are not sticking up for Him. You're just making it easy on yourself not to fight. God is saying in 6, be very firm. So what He's saying is, be obedient. Separate yourself from these people. And then desire what God has for you. Not what these people have, but what God has for you. Be devoted to Him. So how do you change it around when you let people into your life that really are negative against God? I have several people that I have tried to distance myself from, because their language is absolutely horrible. Even when you say, hey, I don't talk like that here, they don't care. They'll talk however they want, wherever they want. Those are the people that I try to distance myself as much as I can. Sometimes it gets complicated, but I pray against that. I absolutely am praying against ungodliness being around me and to do away with it. Because if you don't, you're going to have defeat. You're not going to have victory. You're going to have defeat. And in all kinds of things in your life. And you're going to be like, well, where did that come from? I got the bloody nose. Where did all that come from? Why is this happening? It's because you're permitting disrespect for your God around you. And that's not good. Oh my goodness, that is, I'm learning. The older I get, I'm not gonna allow it. I make excuses to do other things or be somewhere else than to be around people that really, I saw a passage in Proverbs that hit me like a 10-ton brick. And I don't remember exactly where it was, what chapter, but it talked about in your heart. Your heart, whatever comes out of your mouth is directly related to what's in your heart. And if there's foul mouth, if foul things are coming out of your mouth, if you're cussing and being foul, it leads to, it's showing violence in your heart. And when I really got to thinking about that, it was truth. It was truth. You will notice people that speak like that all the time. And look, I'm not a prude. I know every now and then a bad word might come out of your mouth. A bad word might come out of my mouth. Maybe not that bad, but you know what I mean. This foul words coming out all the time means that there is violence hiding. Anger and violence hiding in your heart because it's coming out of your mouth. So beware of that. I learned that. I thought that was very valuable. So where are we? I think we're on verse 7. In order that we may not associate with these nations, these which remain among you, or mention the name of their gods, or make anyone swear by them, or serve them, or bow down to them. What do you think Michigan's doing? They're repeating the Muslim prayers over in the streets. And those people have to stop and let these people, I'm telling you, something ought to be done about that. But you know the only people that can do it? People of God. They ought to be out there screaming the Word of God out loud from their Bibles. That's another thing I've learned. If you want results, start saying God's Word out loud. Out loud. 8. But you are to cling to the Lord your God as you have done to this day. He's given a little bit of warning. You've done it so far. Don't turn back. For the Lord has driven out great and strong nations from before you. And as for you, no man has stood before you to this day. Number 10. One of your men puts to the flight 1,000. For the Lord your God is he who fights for you, just as he has promised you. Yeah. Yeah. I think if Michigan or Minnesota or the places where we're really seeing an ungodly and a tremendous amount of ungodliness, I believe if the Christian community would get together, there's thousands of us. See, we're too lazy. It's cold out there. They're not too cold. The ungodly, evil demons are not too cold. But we are to go out and hold our Bibles up and speak the Word of God over them. You know, we might even save a few of those people if we would do that. Number 11, so take diligent heed to yourself to love the Lord your God. Be obedient to your God. For if you ever go back and cling to the rest of these nations, these which remain among you, and intermarry with them, so that your association with them and they with you, you associate with them and they with you. See, that familiarity breeds. It breeds. 13. Know with certainty that the Lord your God will not continue to drive these nations out from before you, but they shall be a snare and a trap to you, and a whip on your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from off this good land which the Lord your God has given you. Saying, don't let them take over. We have to learn that in the United States. We have to fight back. You know, one of my first prayers in the morning is, I pray against Islam, because Islam is against God. It's just a simple prayer. Whatever I can do, I'm going to pray against them, for the simple fact they are against God. They don't recognize Jesus. They don't recognize God. They say they do. They don't. They made up this Muhammad guy. No one can find out if he even lived. Have you researched that at all? Or you just believe in all that crap? I researched it, and all the commentators I'm reading said there's really no physical proof of history that that guy even existed. Okay. Let's see, where are we? 14. Now, behold, today I am going the way of all the earth, and you know in all your hearts and in all your souls that not one word of all the good words which the Lord your God spoke concerning you has failed. When you rely on God, you will not fail. You will find victory, not defeat. I'm telling you. So many things I could tell you about with me to give you hope. Someday maybe I'll do one of those podcasts. All have been fulfilled for you. Not one of them has failed. When God promises you something, He is faithful to provide. He's faithful to complete that promise. 15. And it shall come about that just as all the good words which the Lord your God spoke to you have come upon you, you, the Lord, will bring upon you all the threats until He has destroyed you from off this good land which the Lord your God has given you. Verse 16, when, and the better translation is if. You can write that in there, I did. If you transgress the covenant of the Lord your God, which He commanded you, and go and serve other gods, and bow down to them, then the anger of the Lord will burn against you. Anybody want the anger of the Lord against them? I don't. And you shall perish. Anybody want to die because you're not obeying God? I don't. You shall perish quickly from off the good land which He has given you. A lot of things can go bad when you turn your back on God. And for whatever reason, I mean, I'm in a very ungodly place. Kings Isle, specifically the Isle of Madeira, which is where I live. The majority of the people here are from New York, New Jersey. Majority. I have not met, other than one other, Ohio, I think 2 other, Michigan, but basically the East Coast. And they want nothing to do with God. Talk about it, give Him credit for anything. They want nothing. And they conflict politics with God. Well, we don't talk politics, we don't talk God. They have no knowledge and do not want it. That the whole Bible is politics. God is guiding us through showing us what He's done to nations and governments. That's politics. But people are so stupid, they don't even get that. And I've learned you cannot fix stupid. Yeah, and Proverbs tell you, don't get into a fight with these people, because you're going to look the fool. God says, let Him do it. Let Him fight this. All you do is pray for them, which I have a list. I have a list. So we are at the end of chapter 23. I told you it wasn't going to be very long, but it's so filled. But let me go back over my notes that I wanted to remind you from my book for dummies, Bible for dummies. Joshua watched in his aged years that Israel was content to live side by side with the profane pagans instead of fighting and conquering, which is what he asked them to do. And I said to myself, and I wrote a note, from practically, because that's why I teach the Bible, I want to teach the practical side of following Jesus, of having God as our God, our one true God. What is this? What can we learn from? Have we learned to live side by side beside the ungodly, the pagans, and just think, well, you know, they're not bothering me, I won't bother you. I'll have them over for dinner and be friendly. I'll be a nice Christian. And before you know it, you're praying to their God or accepting their God's crap over ours, over our God, who gave his only Son for us. I don't know if you've ever read in detail what all Jesus went through, but when I studied that, I'm not kidding. I was beside myself. All I did was cry, knowing what all he went through, the horrible beatings. His skin was literally filleted off his back. His head, those crowns, they were thorns this big, dug into his skull. Did he ever cry out? No. The only time he did is at the end. He said, Father, I give you my spirit. He knew what he was doing. He could have gotten off. The legions of angels could have removed him from that cross. He knew what he was doing for us. And for that, we accept Islam into our communities, into our schools, into our churches. Well, we want to accept everyone, even if there's on the front porch of the church. I saw this on the internet, and I was so proud of this pastor. Some Islamic guy got out of a car, came with his little blanket, sat down, kneeled at the front of the church. He said, hey, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm praying. He said, no. This is a Christian church. You don't do that here. Get in your car and get out of here. See, that's how you stand for God. You don't call names. You don't scream and yell. You don't hit them. You stand firm and say, we don't do that here. Get out. I wish the pastor, and I don't know what I would have done, so I'm not criticizing him, when the lunatics entered his Baptist church in Minnesota, screaming like banshees. They were all demonic. I mean, you just watch the activities. And at one point, I did see the pastor say, get out of here. This is the house of the Lord. Here we praise Jesus. Get out of here. Of course, they didn't. And he didn't have any ability to physically remove them, because that would have been a whole nother thing. But just remember that. Keep your eyes open when you're out and about. Don't allow people to talk against our God or against our Jesus. Tell them, no, I won't accept that. Get out of my face. Just tell them. Joshua's dying. He's 110 and he's dying. He's trying so hard to try to build them up, build up his people, and just remind them of the good that God did for them so that they wouldn't forget it and abandon God. And of course, Joshua 23 that we read, around verses 6 through 8, Joshua begins with encouragement, follow God's law. He doesn't command anything. He's just more warning them not to deviate from God's commandments, not to mingle with the ungodly people, not to acknowledge alternate gods or deities, and to expand your dependence on God. No compromise. Do not compromise your faith in God. So easy to get caught up in that. I'm learning total dependence on God. Total dependence on God. It's not easy. It can get scary, but see, that's the devil. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of love, control, and power. And we can do this. We can depend on God. And you just hang on, that he will deliver. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I just love this section. It's more me. It's more me. And in the end, this is interesting. It doesn't say it here because we haven't gotten it. We haven't gotten through Judges, and but this book tells the end of the story, which is interesting. So what happens is, in spite of Joshua's eloquent speech to the children of Israel, they began to turn from God in the very next generation. And his final predictions would come to pass 800 years later, when they, in Babylon, when they accepted all the pagan gods and forsaken their own God, the only true living God. None of these other gods ever talk to you. I have God talking to me. I had an incident this week about a generator. I had ordered a generator for Patriots, a good company. Solar panels showed up, all this other stuff showed up, no generator. And I prayed, I'm like, Lord, I know I ordered this right. I asked you first to help me, blah, 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 depending on God to help me. No generator. So I waited a week, I finally called the credit card, canceled that order. $2,700, it was not cheap. But I wanted the generator. It's something I can do. It's odorless, I can bring it in the house if something would happen. I have a gas one, which I don't know how to do, but you have to pull it out in the driveway so you don't asphyxiate yourself with it. But anyway, I turned it over to Chase, and they said, we'll settle this. We'll take this off your credit card. And so I left it. I did my part. Well, then I get an email from this company, for Patriots, saying they have a delivery the very next day. Within 2 hours of me talking to Chase and calling their company, trying to get a hold of somebody, who never did, waited an hour, and then they said, well, we'll call you back. They never did. So the next day I'm praying to God about it, and I'm getting a little concerned. What else are they sending me, and what else are they going to charge me for? And God whispers to me, I'm driving along, and he says, you're going to be happy tomorrow. You're going to be happy. You're going to be surprised, and you're going to be happy. Those are the two things he told me. Came home, wrote in my journal. In the afternoon, forgot all about this package coming. Ding dong. It was UPS, and it was a big box. And he said, do you want this in the house, or do you want this in the garage? I'm like, garage. I opened the garage. He brought it in, and I said, I hope this is my generator. He said, oh, it is. I think it is. It's big enough. I said, thank you. He left. It was my generator that I paid for originally, and then got all these other gifts because I ordered that generator. But I had relinquished control over that. I asked God to work it out. And I was willing to give it up, whatever happened, because it had stressed me out. But think of that. He whispered. No other God does that. No other God whispers to you what's going to happen. I tell my daughter things that God tells me about her and her business. And she's quiet. She doesn't disrespect. But invariably, she'll call me and say, Mom, this is exactly what happened. God had already told me, and I told her. So we have a living God. If you get close to him, he'll get close to you and tell you great and hidden secrets. That's in, I think, Proverbs. It's one of the passages I say out loud. But anyway, eventually, 800 years later, they turned so far from God. That's how patient he is, 800 years, that they were exiled to Babylon. If you remember that story, all kinds of bad things happened. And I think that was a 70-year thing. And then God rescued them. He was always rescuing Israel. And he will always rescue you. If you love him and you've accepted his son, Jesus, as your sacrifice for sin, you know that he's sitting, he died, he rose again, and he's sitting at the right hand of God. I can hardly wait to see that. Anyway, this is the end of it. I'm really glad that we did chapter 23. Next week I'll do chapter 24, and then that's the end of the study. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, would you send me a Facebook, or if you have my telephone numbers, give me a message how it's affected you. What's the practical aspect of the book of Joshua for you? I've loved it. Anyway, I will see you next week.